This is Mommying While Muslim, recorded live and unedited. Watch as Zeba and Uzma record their podcast, see their reactions, and find out for yourself what all the buzz is about.
This episode of Momming While Muslim is brought to you by Guidance Residential. Join Guidance Residential on March 23rd for a free career webinar and find out about job opportunities with the company that might help you, your family, and your community. This episode is also sponsored by Muslim Kids TV, where you can find over 15,000 resources, including Islamic videos, games, and ebooks for your children. Use code MKTV2021 to get a 25% discount off of your annual subscription.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Momming While Muslim. This is Uzma Jaffrey.
And this is Zeba Hassan. How are you, my dearest? How was your week this week?
It was a good one. I have started my Ramadan prep. I'm getting inspired by all of the mamas online who are getting their stuff together, and I started ordering slowly. I haven't put it all together, but I am slowly bringing it in so that I will be ready and not unprepared this year. How
Now
about you?
you're going to stress me out because I have not started doing that. And so if you're starting, that means I'm like 2 weeks behind. So
Yeah, that's true because you are
I
prepared for
need
everything.
to get started on that. But no, definitely I think here in the DMV area the weather's getting a bit nicer and I'm noticing it really is a real thing to have the sun shining and the warm. I mean, no wonder you live where you live, right? Because
Yep,
we don't have all those sunny days, but just a little bit of sunshine goes a long way in lifting your
absolutely.
mood, having people go out, everybody being a little bit more nicer to each other. I don't know if that's
That's
at
a thing.
fair. Is it a thing?
I don't know.
I'm feeling more nice to people, you know. So I just feel like, thanks subhanAllah for the sunshine and
Alhamdulillah.
trying to really focus on, everybody kind of getting that mental health piece back because it was kind of a very long, dark winter. And I think because we're coming up on the year or we just passed the year mark for
Lockdown.
quarantine and COVID and lockdown. And I think people are itching to kind of get out and we're still trying to be safe. So, we have a little bit of ways to go, but I feel like you can now actually start seeing the literal light at the end of the tunnel. So I am feeling super grateful for that. But what about you? Have you been enjoying the sun in your sunshine state and feeling good all around?
I take it for granted, right? Like, I
Yeah, you
just will
do.
go and read out in the front yard because my front yard is done. My backyard still looks like garbage. So I'll go sit out front and just try to get some sun and read a book and drink my coffee. And I don't, I'm now that you're saying it, I think I take it for granted. I just go out because I
Hmm.
like the environment. I like how it feels and I want my vitamin D. So that's why I'm out there.
Yes.
And I don't think about everybody who is in dark like you guys.
I know, because 'cause we're
I'm so
so
sorry.
gloomy. I know, so we're seeing the sunshine, light at the end of the tunnel, feeling cautiously optimistic about what is to come, and all the things that they're coming in our future, inshallah, ameen. And Basma, please, can you let us know what our soapbox for the week is?
I will do that gladly. I would like to report an update on our soapbox from last week, where we talked about all of the Asian hate that was going on and the attacks that were happening on my sweet elderly Asian people. I'm so irritated that old people were being attacked. Well, that 76-year-old Asian grandma, Zhao Zhenji, that I told you about, who picked up a 2x4 and beat the crap out of her attacker, she got $1 million in donations for her medical bills. And guess what she did? She leveled up and she donated it all to the Asian community who is also suffering, continues to suffer from these attacks because they haven't stopped. They are just continuing. We're still not calling the hate crimes hate crimes. There's a bill underway in Congress. We put the link in our show notes from last week's episode, which was He Didn't Hit Me. Please check those show notes for the links to be able to write a letter to your congressperson based on your zip code. It'll go right to them to say that you want this legislation passed to start calling hate crimes, and prosecute them accordingly. That said, I'm going to talk about first what happened this past Wednesday on March 24th, where Rico Marley carried 6 guns, a ski mask, body armor, and 2 rifles in a guitar case into a grocery store in Atlanta and started getting quote unquote ready in the bathroom where a witness ran out and reported, hey, there's an armed dude, um, armed white dude, in the middle of the grocery store. So luckily, this 22-year-old gentleman, if that's what you want to call him, was detained and nothing bad happened. But we're all still reeling, especially as the Muslim community, from the March 22nd attack in Boulder, where 10 people were killed by an armed gunman for no apparent reason. That does not appear to be a hate crime, just like this potential Atlanta shooting was. But sadly, the shooter in Boulder, Colorado, happens to be a Muslim who happens to probably have suffered for years and years with either undiagnosed or untreated mental illness, but he left the scene alive, guys. So, was it because he's white passing? Because I'm really wondering if he was black or brown, BBB for the Muslim community, black, brown, or bearded, what would have been the outcome for this guy? So, he got away with just a gunshot wound to the leg. Um, and they talked about mental illness after his shooting because, again, was it because he's white passing? I'm not sure. I'm not happy about it. And to top it all off, kudos to the Muslim community for stepping up and saying, hey, we're going to create a launch good campaign and raise, like, as much money as we can to kind of make up for one of our own doing this. No, that is a fail. I do not appreciate that. And I'm behind all kinds of fundraisers and campaigns that the Muslim community does, especially in the face of hate crimes. But this wasn't a hate crime. This was untreated mental illness. This was access to assault weapons by a mentally ill person. And supposedly we have legislation that's supposed to help that. It's not working. We need to ban assault rifles, guys, across the board because let's face it, all of us are mentally ill on some level. I know I am. So let's just please get rid of the weapons, start calling your congresspeople to enforce gun control and start doing common sense gun legislation. We are so over this. We're so over this. People are just bored and they're copycatting and shooting innocent people without reason. We know as Muslims that this is one of the signs of the day of judgment when people will kill their brothers and they won't even know why. So can we just take the inciting stuff out of their hands, like, I don't know, New Zealand, Canada, everybody who has an ounce of common sense is doing? That's my soapbox for today.
I'm just going to leave it there in the universe.
May Allah, grant our legislators the common sense to do something about it and call a duck and not shoot it this time. But gun control,
Inshallah,
y'all. Gun control.
inshallah, and I mean,
Hmm.
inshallah, inshallah, and I mean. And this, by the way, is not saying you're anti-gun. You're
Oh, I'm anti-gun.
okay. She's
I'm from
anti-gun.
Texas and I lived in two open carry states. I currently live in an open carry state and I am anti-gun.
She is anti-gun, and this is again where she and I differ because I am not anti-gun, but I am for common sense gun legislation. And just to put that out there, but I really appreciate my dearest Uzma, and it's our differences that make us unique. And I
And
love you.
better
And
together.
better together. This month's Firewalker series has left us extremely dehydrated, including with the mascara, because I cry when I'm recording it. I cry when I'm listening to it. And I cry talking to somebody about it. So hence my water here today, ladies, because I gotta make sure I am hydrated as well as I can be. But you know what? It's also left us a little bit scared because the reality is it's the unknown that makes us fearful. And we hope that it finds you a little bit uplifted as well. And in hopeful in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we first found out about today's guest, it was actually her daughter that stole our heart. And it was her dad that made us weep through their ordeal that this entire family has experienced. But as moms, we dig for the moms. We're momming while Muslim, not dadding while Muslim. So we had to go and look for this beautiful mama. And we wanted her story to be told because it's the truth of the matter. She's often the one carrying everything out. She doesn't have the time or the language to disrupt because she's too busy being the mother, trying to survive. And she doesn't necessarily have a platform to say all the things that she has to say in the eye of the storm. So we dug deep and we found her. And Dr. Sarah Syed is here today to talk about what it's like to go from hospice to recovery at her daughter's bedside. Like, everybody, just get into the bathtub right now because you're going to be crying and filling it up with tears, and then we can soak and recover from that
In our own salt
afterwards
bath.
in our own salt. You know what? It's human stew. I'm not into baths. Okay. So I don't even know why I said that. And I am so thankful to have you here today. Sarah, you are a non-invasive cardiologist by day, an amateur do-it-yourselfer and a chef by night. I need you to live near me. She's another doc mom, as my fellow Dr. Uzma Joffrey is. And we are super biased, but we already love you. Welcome, Sarah.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
We're just tickled and so excited. And after we reached out to you, all these serendipitous things started happening. And so
Mhm.
we were sure that Allah was guiding us into this
Yeah.
conversation. So we are so ready to jump in and, ball with you. I was smart. I did not wear eye makeup today. So we usually kick off by asking our guests to tell us a little bit about their mom story and their momming philosophy. So the stage is yours.
Okay, so my name is Sarah, like you guys said. I moved around a lot as a kid. My parents settled in Long Island when I was in high school. I went to university at Syracuse University, and that's where I met my husband, Karam, which was literally like 1 week after I started university.
Oh,
Lucky.
um,
love that.
MashaAllah.
yes, that was, it's fortuitous that we met so early. And, from 2006 till 2011, we were just dating, moving towards marriage. We got married in 2011. We are both doctors. So, we went through the med school, residency, fellowship, all the things. And then after 8 years of being married, we had Imani in 2019. So she is our first child, and she is my everything.
Yes.
uh, and, to sort of sum up the momming philosophy, which you guys will see why I say these things, I savor the good moments like above everything else. I savor every moment, I should say. When she is screaming in my face and driving me nuts, I am like, I feel so blessed that I have her in front of
Mhm.
me screaming and annoying me. So I just take a deep breath and try to remember, it's all good. You're grateful for everything. And I'll say, take everything as a mom one step at a time. I feel like we get very overwhelmed by the things going on, the situation we're in. So I just try to go day by day and, take it minute by minute and just experience everything as it comes.
I love that. That's perfect. Where were you when we started momming? Oh my gosh. We're already projecting like 10, 20 years in advance. So that's crazy. Um, so are you comfortable talking about what it was like after Imani was born and what led up to her diagnosis?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
to be real, unfortunately, I do not have a single real memory of Imani
Mhm.
before she got sick. She was diagnosed when she was 5 weeks old.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
I see like pictures and videos. My husband, as you guys alluded to, is a
Mhm.
social media fanatic. So I feel like every day is recorded. But when I look at it, I feel like I'm watching a movie of someone else's life. I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
remember any of these moments, which makes me sad looking back because I feel like I missed the only window of normalcy that we kind of had.
Mhm.
Um, but from everything that I do remember, it was just this blissful, normal time. You're with a newborn, so everything's crazy. You're not sleeping, you're not eating,
Mhm.
but you're just, happy, overwhelmed, and happy. So that's how I remember the overall feeling being, even if I don't have any individual memories from that time. But we had the typical struggles, typical newborn struggles. So I was breastfeeding her, so she was just not gaining any weight.
Mhm.
We would like go to the doctor, go to the pediatrician, and he would be like, she gained a little bit, but it took her, I want to say like 3 weeks to gain back her birth weight, which is
Oh,
not
wow.
normal.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so they would every week just be like, "All right, keep, it's the breastfeeding. She's having a tough time. Just come back in another week. We'll see." But it was kind of nothing else going on. Everything else seemed okay. And we started to notice that she would like look down and then her eyes would get stuck. It's like she couldn't look back up. But it
Mm.
would happen for these brief periods of time, and then she would be fine. The rest of the time, she was normal. So actually, my mother-in-law is a family physician, so she is like used to being around newborns, and she wasn't
Mhm.
even here. She was looking at pictures. I think she saw a picture of
Mm.
Imani doing it, and she told my husband, "This isn't normal, and you guys need to get it checked." But she's like slightly anxious by nature, so he said,
Mhm.
I think she's just being typical grandma, and
Mm.
everything's fine. But it stuck in his head, so I would see him like staring at Imani, and he would ask me,
Mhm.
"Do you think everything's okay? Do you think we need to get this checked out?" So we actually saw the pediatrician on Friday, and the pediatrician said, "You guys are nuts," because she didn't do it once while we were in the office. So he said,
Mm.
"She's fine. She finally got back to her birth weight." So he said, "Okay, like she's, everything's good, and go home, and I'll see you in another week for to start vaccines and stuff." So we went home, and I think that was on a Friday. So all day Saturday, it was just driving us nuts. Like, is there
Mhm.
something? Is there not something? What do we do? So I'm actually in a Facebook group of Dr. Moms. There's like 70,000 Dr. Moms in this Facebook group.
Yes.
And
Yay
that's
for you Doctor Mamas.
Sunday
I love
morning.
that.
Thank you. On Sunday morning, I saw someone post, my kid has this rash. I don't know what it is. And all these people were responding saying, it could be this, it could be this. So I said, great, let me post a picture of Imani doing the concerning eye movement, and I'll see what people say. So this was early Sunday morning. I put up a post, and it was like immediately I got these responses from neurosurgeons saying, you need to go get her checked out right now. This is not normal,
Oh.
and something serious could be going on. So we called a radiologist at the hospital where we both work, and we said, we really don't want to like take her to the ER and make this a thing.
Mhm.
Can you just take a look at her, see what you think? And he said, yeah, I'll just do an ultrasound, and see what's going on. We won't even register her. I'll just get one of the technicians to like put an ultrasound probe on her. So we took her in. I was literally in my PJs. I just put on a sweatshirt over my PJs in case I ran into anyone that I work with. And we walked in like the back door and took her straight back. They did this ultrasound. There was just so much fluid built up in her
Oh my
head. So
gosh.
yeah, he was like, something is obviously causing this. Some kids are just born with it. It's called hydrocephalus. So some kids just
Mhm.
have hydrocephalus. And he said, let's register her as a patient, and then let's do an MRI, and we'll see what's causing this. So when he put her in the MRI machine, and I had to go in the MRI with her to keep her quiet.
Mhm.
So I was just in the room with her, I was like giving her a pacifier. And then it finished, and we came out, and Coram was like, hey, like put her down in the stroller. And I was like, what? She's fine. He's like, no, 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 put her down. So I like put her in the stroller, and he's like,
Oh.
she has a brain tumor. It's massive. We need to like get her to the children's
Oh.
hospital right now. And he was like, I was afraid you were going to drop her. And that's why I had you put her down first. And that's when, everything spiraled from there.
Do you like have a blackout after that?
I actually remember every moment of her being sick, of the first couple weeks.
Oh,
It's just sad that it's only the good memories that I don't have anymore. But I remember everything from that moment forward. So
but what
the
you should know but you what you should know,
Mhm.
Sarah, because I'm listening to this and I can even hear a little bit of you feeling that regret of not
Yeah,
remembering what she was like, and you should just know she remembers. Like, it's in
yeah,
her DNA. So you
yeah,
need to know that and be okay
yeah,
with that. So that's the one thing I wanna tell you because she feels it. And,
yeah,
she'll know it forever. So and that's okay because there are gonna be lots of great memories in the future, and that's what you guys are gonna be focused on. So, this is literally a mom's worst nightmare. I mean, we're all sitting up
right.
here, we're feeling it. I have the goosebumps because I was really sad about this because it is like that. Because 'cause you're a new mom and you're, like, already stressed out about everything, and, I mean, mine was
Yeah,
as simple as because my kids are mixed, he was jaundiced, and I kept saying,
yeah,
"He's a weird color," and they're like, "No, that's his skin color, you're being crazy." I'm like, "He's yellow, he's not suppo—" But you know what I'm saying? Like, and the doctors make you feel like, "Come on, mama, you're fine, you're being over—" But
yeah,
when your worst fear comes to materialization, like that's a game changer at that point. And I'm
Yes.
sure, like you said, it's you're spiraling. How did you get through that? Like, how did you get through that? What was the next steps when you found this
I
out?
mean, yeah, so we found out and they said, she has to get to the children's hospital right away. So we work at a hospital in Eastern Long Island, and it's a great hospital for adults, but they don't have any specialized
Yeah.
childcare there. So the the best children's hospital in our area is probably 45 minutes west of there. So they were like, we will, go down to the ER, get her registered, then we'll call them, we'll arrange a transfer. We were like, that's going to take way too long. We don't have time. So we were like, we're just going to drive her ourselves. So we got in the car. We had taken 2 cars to the hospital that day because my husband was going to stay at work after we got her
Oh.
checked out. So we're
Mhm.
like, he just called someone, said, cover me. I got to go. We went home so I could grab my breast pump and we could get into one car. And then we drove to the children's hospital. And he went up to them and he told them, we work for the same system. This is what's going on. It was a flu season. It was November. This
Mhm.
was December, actually. Yeah, so it was flu season. And he said, we cannot sit out in the ER and wait. You guys have to get us in right now. They took us straight back. They called the neurosurgeon who was on call. By this point, it was like midday getting towards nighttime. So they called the neurosurgeon. He came in and he said, first of all, she would have been dead in a couple of days. He said
Oh
this
my
was just like
god.
a ticking time bomb. Yeah, because adults, our skulls are closed. So if you have this
Yes.
massive pressure buildup, you get symptoms right away. But children,
Yes.
since they have the
Don't.
openings still,
Yeah.
they can tolerate a lot of pressure. So he's like, she has
Oh my
massive pressure
god.
and she would not have lasted very long. So he's like, thank God you guys got here. But also, this looks really bad. He's like, I'm not gonna lie to you, this looks terrible. And I don't know if she's going to make it through surgery. So he was like, we're gonna take her to surgery first thing in the morning. Because I want like the best people to be here. 'Cause, when you do a procedure overnight, it's just the on-call crew that
Yes.
comes in. Yeah. So he was like, I want this to be my A team. So first thing in the morning, we're gonna go to surgery. So you guys, will spend the night here and then that's it. So that night was awful. We were both just awake and like staring at her lying between us that night. And then first thing in the morning, they took her to surgery. They told us it's going to be really long, really complicated. We're bringing in a second neurosurgeon. It's going to
Oh
take
my
probably 8 hours. So, like, don't expect to hear from us. So we were like, okay, a bunch of our family showed up and we're just kind of waiting. And I think after like 3 or 4 hours, they came out and they were like, listen, she was going to bleed to death. Oh, this
Oh my
surgery was like
god.
terrible. So they said we stopped. We couldn't get the tumor out. We got like half of it, 60%. And we stopped there. We just closed her up. So we said, okay, so like what happens from here is it what you thought? You said it was this bad cancer. Is that what it is? And he said, it's actually worse than what we thought.
Mm.
The oncologist will see you guys to talk about the options, but this does not look good.
Oh my
So yeah, that's and the following day we saw the oncologist. They said, based on the kind of tumor we think it is, the longest we've ever seen a baby survive with aggressive chemo is 5 months.
oh my
So we were
god.
like, we're not going to put her through this like horrible treatment just to get a couple months with her. So we said we don't want to do it. We're just going to take her home on hospice and wait for this was all based on preliminary diagnosis because it takes a few weeks for your full
Mhm.
pathology to come back. So they said we said we'll take her home. We just want to like keep her comfortable, enjoy the time that we have, wait for the diagnosis officially, and then see, if there's anything you guys can offer her. So we went, we were obviously in the hospital for a few days while she was recovering from surgery, but we went home on that Saturday. So we were in the hospital for about a week. um, by Monday, she just looked awful. I was like, something else is going on. This is not just like a baby that just had surgery. She is just, looking terrible. So I called them and I said, can we please come in and see you guys? Something is going on. So they said, yeah, come in. And this was Christmas Eve. So we went to the oncologist's office on Christmas Eve and she took one look at her and said, she's not going to make it past, a few weeks, a few days. She said,
Oh.
she's just, gonna die soon. So that was probably like the lowest moment. And this was the hospital that's like 40 minutes from our house. So we're driving home. We're just silent, not talking to each other, like knowing our family's waiting at home and we have to go home and tell them something. And as we're pulling into our driveway, we get this call from this doctor at St. Jude because we had put out feelers to just everyone. And he calls and he says, I can cure her. He said, I have cured like a dozen kids
Oh,
and I can cure her. You just guys just have to get down here. And he said, she's too young. You can't give up. We told him, they just told us she has like weeks to live. And he said, no, she's too young. You can't give up on her. And long story short, after 6 months, another surgery, lots of chemo, they cured her and she's now tumor free.
oh, so
Yeah. I know it's even telling it back. I'm like, wow, this is it sounds like someone else's life.
So, like, what does a mom I'm gonna respond for my poor
Yeah.
co-host Uzma, because we love all of our moms and our babies, so we take this really personally. What
Yeah.
does a mom say to herself when someone sits her down and says, "This is it?" What's going on? What's your internal dialogue looking like when someone says this to you, to your baby, that this is supposed to be the happiest moment of your life, and within weeks that's changed? How
Right.
what are you
Yeah.
saying to yourself, Sarah, at this point?
I mean, so in the past, I have never been a super religious person. I'm
Mhm.
still not. But I would say, that moment where they said, okay, there because initially when she's sick, she needs surgery, you're just on autopilot. It's, a
Yes.
fight or flight. We need to get her through this, get her through this. And I'm still, taking care of a newborn. She was still feeding every 3 hours. And so I was
Yes.
too busy to even think about anything else. But once they said, she is going to die. You need to take her home and prepare and, keep her comfortable. So at that moment, it's like, that is probably the most close to Islam I ever felt in my life because
Mm.
I was like thinking to myself that if everything is real and there's a Jannah, she's gonna go there and I can go there and see her again and we can be together again. And like that was the time when I felt the most spiritual in my life because it's kind of what else is there? I can either think that there's nothing after this and this was all for nothing, or I can think, okay, my life has some purpose that I'm going to be reunited with her one day. And that was
Inshallah.
my only thought at that time.
Um, sorry. Uh, I just have flashbacks, and like we had a guest a couple of weeks ago when Samia Masood was here, and she was talking about when her son was diagnosed with a brain tumor as well, how like life is pre-diagnosis and post-diagnosis. And
Mhm.
sadly, you don't remember your
Right.
pre-diagnosis life,
Right.
but post, you're talking about your relationship with God and, Islam, if you will. Were you able to actually verbally pray during this time? And if you were, what was the prayer? And if you weren't, can you explain why you weren't able to verbalize it?
I didn't do like formal namaz.
Right.
But internally, I felt like I was constantly, communicating with Allah and just saying like, make it easy for her. Like, please, like, make it easy for
Mhm.
her, make it easy for me and the rest of my family, and just, get us through this somehow. Um, Afterwards, much later on, I would say things became very difficult and murky for me again because we're at St. Jude, we are meeting all these families, kids are dying left and right, having
Mhm.
bad outcomes left and right. And so at that time again, you're just thrown back into, well, this makes no sense. There's my mom and my mother-in-law would tell me, people prayed so much and that's why this happened. And I'm like, that cannot be right because
Right.
I've seen so many horrible things happening. So, it can't be just that prayers fixed Imani and not these other kids. So now I'm back to just my confusion middle ground where I usually land.
I get it, right? When times of crisis, right, a lot of people question their faith, regardless of
Right.
what their faith is. That is
Yeah.
human nature, and honestly, quite frankly, for me, I feel like that's a gift from God. the opportunity and
Right.
the blessing to question. Because when you
Right.
find your way back, you've gone on a journey to get there and go through that.
Yeah.
So I don't want you to ever feel like you're in the middle ground or whatever, because like I just don't believe that. I feel like God is always there, whether you want him or not.
Right.
I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy. Whether you need him or not, or think you don't, he is always there. Because in our darkest moments, that is what gets, at least it gets me through it. So I'm thankful that you did have that connection, even if it was a spark connection for the time that you had it. And whatever it's between you and God and yourself, we're never here to judge. We're here to talk about
Right.
your story and how you got through this, regardless of where you are today. Because I can see where you're coming from. Like, why
Yeah.
me? Why not somebody else? How come this? Why not this? And you've
Right.
mentioned St. Jude a little bit. And for people that are not familiar, whoever, it's St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and it's in
Correct.
Memphis,
Yeah.
Tennessee. And
Right.
this doctor came and called you and said, "Don't give up." And you're at St. Jude's, and they're taking you over. And what role did St. Jude play in curing or facilitating the cure for Imani?
I mean, they are 100% responsible for curing her. Like I said, so back when we first didn't know what was going on, we posted the picture on the Facebook group, and I was updating constantly while we were in the hospital with her,
Of
and I said,
course, because
we're
at this
taking her
point,
to
everybody's
surgery.
invested. Let's be
Oh
honest. Like,
yeah.
if you posted that, I'd be like, "Where is she? Where is this baby?
Yeah.
Where is the mom? Please give us an update." So I get
Oh my
that.
gosh. Yeah. So they were asking constantly. So I told them, they said this, she had surgery, they said this. And everyone was saying, go to this hospital, reach out to this hospital. And one mom from the group told me, I work at St. Jude. She said, I'm in their palliative care department, but I know the person to, talk to about your daughter's diagnosis. So she said, I'll with you if you want to. So I said, yes, please have him call me. So she actually gave him my husband's number, and she gave him the wrong number. Like she missed one digit or something.
Oh
So
no.
he called someone else, and so later I told her, like, we never heard from him. And she said, oh, that's weird, we'll try again or whatever. But it was all fate or Allah or whatever it was. Everything just happened in the perfect way, because once that passed, and that's when they told us she needs to go on hospice and she's not going to make it. So we just kind of gave up on that. So we said, they said she's not going to make it, we're taking her home. We never reached out to this person again. And she was just so persistent that she called him again and said, they didn't hear from you, you need to call them again. And that's how he ended up calling us on Christmas and saying, I can fix this. So I'm like, first of all, this stranger cared enough about me and Imani
Yes.
to, follow up and make sure that someone got in touch with us. And then even after she had done that, she still said, okay, he didn't call you or you didn't get the message, so I'm going to make sure he does again. So she really went, out of her way. When I met her at St. Jude, I was like crying buckets. Like, this is all because of you. Yeah.
Where
That's
is she? I
awesome.
wanna give her a hug. Like, where is
She,
You gotta go to
she?
Memphis,
yeah, so
girl.
she's a doctor
I
at
want
St. Jude. She was in
I wanna
Memphis.
give her a hug. The doctor at St. Jude. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
And then once we got there, they just took over everything. So they said, we have this experimental treatment, but it has cured, I think, like 12 or 13 kids. So they said, we can give her this. It's going to be a lot. It's toxic, heavy dose chemotherapy. But, they said infants respond pretty well. So we did that for 2 months. We did the chemo, and then they said, let's repeat the MRI and see what's going on. They did another MRI, and they said it shrunk. They said it shrunk by half. So they said, it's
Ooh.
working. This is our time. We need to, because if there is any cancer cells left in the body, basically you have no chance. They said the only
Yes.
chance for her to survive is to get this out of her body. So after 2 months, they said, this is our window. It has shrunk. Let's take her back to surgery. So we went back into surgery, and, in kind of a twist, it was again, the surgeon told us it's going to be this long, complicated procedure. you won't hear from me, just sit tight. And I think again, after like 2 hours, they called and said, he wants to talk to you. So we were like, oh God, it's going to be like another thing. And he said, I literally opened her up and the tumor just slid out. He's like, it was shriveled up. It was dead. It's all gone. He's like, I know that we got all of it. So after
Alhamdulillah.
that, they did like 4 more months of chemo just to keep up clean up any microscopic cells that were left behind. And then when they repeated the MRI at the end, they said, nothing has grown back. So they said she's NED, no evidence of disease. And that was in July. And then since July, she's been just back home and trying to, be a normal kid since then.
Alhamdulillah. And you're trying to be normal parents. I just,
Yes.
for people who are non-medical in the audience, because I know we have quite a few, I just want to put into context what this tumor was. It was glioblastoma multiforme, right? Okay, so
Right.
for people who don't know, that's what killed John McCain. And so when we saw him on that interview where his mouth slurred, like all of us who are doctors, were like, brain tumor, and it's
Yeah.
probably this one. Nobody survives it. Nobody survives
Yeah.
this. So the fact that
Right.
Imani did this, I mean, it's literally a death sentence when you get this. I treat patients with this quite frequently, and I don't treat.
Yeah.
I'm also a hospice medical director, so I just kind of walk them to the end because that's all I can do.
Right.
So the fact that the freaking tumor slid out of her head, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is amazing. You don't
Right.
understand,
Amazing.
like you're saying, everything happened in a certain way and happened perfectly. To
Yeah.
me, I know people call that fate. To me, that's Allah working. And I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
subhanallah. When I first started following the story and I read she had it, I was like making dua, ya Allah, make it easy for her parents, make it easy for her. Cause I was sure
Yeah.
this was it. And then to find out that, oh, she's cured, I'm like, I've never heard of that. Like mind
Yeah.
explosion, because we learn in medical
100%. Yeah.
school that this is not possible. This is a killer,
Yeah.
100%. So I just wanted to put that in context for the non-medical folks out there. But I
So
do
that's
want
what
to
they told us
know.
at
Oh,
St. Jude. Sorry to interrupt you that,
no, no, go
they
ahead.
said infants just respond totally differently, but they said nobody knows that. We just, did this study, we got this data back, and so this is what we're going to use to treat her. They said
Yeah.
nobody else would know.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, they're, on the forefront of doing this kind of research and working on kids, especially.
Right.
But I did want to ask, you were talking about the darkest point, that drive home, but I'm sure there were other moments, when you guys were in lows and this was a really long process. I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
for like the total duration of treatment and what your relationships with like Huram, your husband look like, what your relationships with your family look like. Because it can be really stressful when you have a
Yeah.
sick kid and it can go one of two ways. You can hate each other at the end and get a divorce, or,
Yeah.
it can bring you closer together. So tell us what that looked like.
Right. It 100% brought us closer together, me and
Oh.
Coram, and me and my family. It was probably the first time that I have just seen from my family, like everyone dropped everything and said, tell us what you need. Like, not even like we are going to come here and do this for you. It was like, whatever you need, we're here to do it for you. So I told you guys that, on the Friday we saw the pediatrician and then the Sunday she got diagnosed. But after we saw the pediatrician on Friday, my parents actually flew to Pakistan. So they were there for vacation to, my nanny still lives there. So they were just going to go visit. And I called them on Sunday and said, she has this brain tumor. And they said, we're getting on the next flight. Like, just sit tight. So they basically left on Friday night, landed, they stayed there for 12 hours and turned around and came back.
Oh.
And my sister lives about 3.5 hours away from me. So she was like, our parents are out of town. So I know you're alone. She was like, I'm getting in the car. She has 3 kids of her own. She was like, I'm getting in the car.
Oh.
I'm on my way. She like slept in the hospital with us that night, but just slept in the waiting room. She said, I know you guys want to be together, but if you need something, like, I'll be next door. So she just slept in the waiting room. Everyone in my family and my in-laws, all the same. They were all just unbelievable. And then Coram and I, we were stuck together through this beginning process. And then quarantine started. So we were truly stuck together, could
Yeah.
not see
Yeah.
another soul from March onwards. And yeah, I just feel like the whole thing just bonded us as parents, as, we've always been like a couple that says we're friends. We're friends first. So it just, made us even closer. And I think especially the way he was like, you are the one doing this. He was like, you are her mom. I'm here for you. You tell me what I can do to help you out. And, it was just like amazing. I couldn't have asked for better support through everything.
Mashallah. I'm so proud of that dude. Like, first,
Yeah.
Yes.
like, this makes me the proudest of him. First, I was proud of him for taking amazing photos of you, because no husband does that. And then I was like, he's a really good writer. Like, he does such a good job. But now I'm proudest of him for that. That is a beautiful thing to
Yeah,
say, that the mom is taking care of the kid. The best
yeah,
thing you can do as a dad for your children is to love their mother.
yes,
And
Mhm.
I mean, that's just, that
100%.
tops it. I learned that. I think Sheikh Umar Suleiman said that a long,
Mhm.
long
Yeah.
time ago. And that is just, if any dads are watching, that's perfect advice. Love hard on that mom.
That's exactly right. And in talking about support, when what part of what we're trying to do on this platform is to help other women that are going through something similar, even if it's not exactly your situation. What would you need? It sounds like your family was there, but when you're friends, you're on the periphery, you're not quite sure like the balance. What is it that you wanted from your friends, or what is it that if somebody's in this situation as a mom sister, we can do for her to help her navigate through this very difficult time?
Yeah, so I'll say, number one, like just reach out to that person. I had friends who would say, we didn't want to bother you, we felt
Yes.
bad, but it was so nice to get a text, especially a text from someone that said, "Don't respond to this. I know you're busy.
Yes.
I just want you to know I'm thinking of
That I'm
you.
thinking
I'm
of
thinking of
you.
Imani." Yes, that's like the number one thing that at least people are out there, they have my back. Maybe I don't have the energy or the strength to talk to them right now, but I know that they're there. So, that's one. Number two, like, alhamdulillah, we were blessed that we didn't need any financial help through this. So, St. Jude covered all of her medical expenses. And we we basically had enough in savings to get us through the 6 months because we both were out of work for that time. We had to
Mhm.
temporarily move to Memphis. We left our house, we left our jobs. So, while we were there, we just kind of blew through our savings. And then once we came back and went back to work, we said, we'll just, start again. That's what they're for. So a lot of people in the beginning asked us, can we start a GoFundMe for you? Can we raise money for you? And we said, just donate to St. Jude.
Mm.
So, Imani we had a fundraiser in Imani's name, and I think she raised something like $75,000 for them,
Oh,
which we were like,
mashallah.
that's money people were willing to give to us, and we just kind of redirected. But we met a lot of people that said, financially, we don't know how we're going to make it through this. So,
Mhm.
if you're in a space to help people out financially, help them out financially, or in any way that you can, like drop food off to them, offer to babysit for them so they can, go out, or, we luckily only had Imani, so we didn't have to worry about any other kids at this time. But
Mhm.
I know tons of people that have, 3, 4 kids, and they're like, my other kids are all neglected because I'm dealing with this.
Mhm.
So whatever, whatever capacity you have to help people, they might not be able to ask, they might not be in a space to ask for help, but this is the time when people really need support. So any of those ways I think are super helpful.
Those are all really, really good points. I agree, and triple agree with all of it. But I do have a question, and I don't know if it's too difficult to answer, don't, or if you don't know, feel free to say you don't know. When in this process did you finally know you were okay? Or if you don't know, will you ever be okay?
um, so there was definitely no time when I knew. I think we're
Mhm.
still it's a daily battle to think about, is this ever going to come back? Is she ever going to be fully okay? The time, I think there was a couple moments that stand out. So when we first landed in Memphis, she was so sick. That's why when we went to the doctor here, they told us, she has a couple weeks. So when we first landed in Memphis, they admitted us to the hospital, and we stayed there for 3 weeks just to kind of get her stabilized.
Mhm.
And during that period, they repeated her MRI, and they said it didn't grow. Nothing changed. So, with a tumor this aggressive, they said that's a good sign. So that was our first little glimmer that okay,
Hope.
something is going the right way. Yeah. And then the 2 months later, when they said it shrunk and it came out, that's when we felt like okay, there's a chance she'll make it through this. I think until then we hadn't really accepted like she might actually come out of this.
You
And
were likely holding your breath the entire time, right? And so every
yes,
time you get a little
exactly.
you're like, "I can take a breath. I can take a breath."
Exactly. Yeah, and then, they make you sign this terrible consent form for chemo that says like she might have this side effect, she might have this side effect, she might get other cancers, she might lose her hearing, she might do that. So, she did lose part of her hearing. She wears hearing aids. From the surgery, she has a hemiparesis, a weakness on the right side of her body. So she's very slow to do everything. So I feel like every day in some ways is a struggle. They said there could be some cognitive issues, but doesn't seem like there are.
Mhm.
So, that's such a blessing that, mentally she seems like she's all there. But then it gets very frustrating for her because she's almost 1.5. She wants to run around,
Mhm.
she wants to grab things, and she can't. She just started crawling, I think 2 months ago. She's not able to even stand on her own yet. So she gets frustrated, and we have to try to, get her keep her encouraging, keep things positive. She has a lot of therapy. She has like I think 7 sessions of PT and OT and speech a week to try to get her caught up and get her on the right track. So we're always constantly like, is she going to have this issue in the future? Is this going to hold her back? Is she going to be okay? Is she going to get cancer again? I think we just kind of try to. I always tell Quorum, I'm like, if those things are going to happen, they're going to happen anyway. So we can either sit
Mhm.
and dwell on them and sit in our misery, or we can just
Enjoy
be a
her for who
family,
she is.
enjoy her. Exactly.
Mhm.
So, I still don't know she's going to be okay, but I try to just live with whatever she is going to be.
That's so funny because even as moms that haven't gone through such a turmoil thing, one of the things I suggest to them is like, you can worry about X and Y and Z, but part of my
Right.
prayer every day is for the day, for right now, for this period of time, we're all healthy, we're all happy, I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. None of us can.
Right.
But for this
Yeah.
time being, we're okay. We're good. And so my last question to you, Sarah, is how are you right now today?
I'm I'm good. I went back to work in January, so I took a full year off of work, which was
Good.
a blessing that, my group was like, I graduated fellowship in July, and I took a month off. So I went to work in middle of August, and I told them like, surprise, I'm pregnant and due in
Pregnant.
November. I'm like, so you
Just
get
so
to
you
have me working
know.
here for 3 months and then I'm gone.
Right.
So I went on maternity leave in November, and I told them I'll be back in January. I still remember the first call I made after my parents was to my boss, and I was crying. I
Oh,
said, I don't know when I'm coming
no.
back. So he said, take whatever time you need and you let us know when you're ready to come back. Which I was like,
Mhm,
why on earth would these people hold a job for me? But they did.
mhm. Good.
And so I went back to work after a full year, which was, difficult. And I went part time because I said, I just cannot be away from her for 5 days a week. Like I'm just not ready to take that step. So it has been weird since then, but in a good way. Like
Mhm.
I'm using all parts of my brain again. We're busy, but things are moving in the right direction. I wouldn't say I'm 100% okay, but it's day by day.
Yeah. I feel like when you have a kid who's gone through something so insane yet miraculous, you're kind of
Yeah,
like waiting for the other shoe to drop.
right,
So I really appreciate your advice to just take it day by day and like appreciate all the good while you
right,
have it. It's
exactly.
hard to do,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Oh, yes.
even if you've gone through that, because like you said, kids do things that annoy you, but
Yeah,
alhamdulillah, like a friend of mine said, she was like, always imagine what it would have been like on the other side. Like
right.
when I was, having some infertility issues, I finally had the kids, and she was like, "Do you remember what it was like when you didn't have her? Didn't have
Mhm.
Right.
him or whatever?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
really sucked." So I'd rather have it this way. So
Yeah.
yeah, alhamdulillah, take all the screams and the tantrums. It's going to be awesome, and we are rooting for Imani. We're rooting for
Thank
you,
you.
and super super excited because Imani's inspired all of us to do good things. Like she inspired your family to fundraise for St. Jude. She inspired us too. And so we will be having a virtual iftar in Ramadan, benefiting St. Jude because we want to showcase that they are just amazing and served one of our mom sisters with the greatest gift ever.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether you believe or not that God helped them do it, we do at Momming While Muslim, but we are so down. We are so down
Yeah.
for, like you said, willing to do anything for St. Jude because they did for my daughter. So we really appreciate you coming here and sharing your story and my snot, sharing in my snot. I so appreciate that. Did you have any final thoughts for us before we close this recording today?
I just want to say regarding St. Jude that, they have those commercials that say families will never get a bill from St. Jude. And me and Coram used to laugh at those. We would be like, there is no way. There is no hospital that says,
I
oh,
know.
we won't charge you. But it is 100% true. And not even just like medical bills. They paid for our housing. They would get us groceries. Like they took care of
Whoa.
every single thing. So any money you go to them, I swear, goes right into helping families. There is like not a dime that they keep for themselves. So I just want that to be out there as well.
Yeah, you are the witness to all the good. And, just like, I can't think of anybody who's like looked death in the face because you had actually bought a burial plot for Imani.
Yeah, we
Like,
did
that's how prepared you guys
when they
were.
told us, right, that, it's going to be a few weeks. We said, well, we don't know what the process is of having a funeral and burying somebody. So we went and spoke to the masjid, and at that time, they gave us her burial plot, which we still have. We need to donate it back to them because we said we are
No.
just have this for no reason now. We hope.
Alhamdulillah and
Inshallah.
inshallah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. We're so happy for you, girl. If you need anything,
Thank
we are
you.
here for it. And so like on board praying for Imani's continued health and long life. And inshallah, I think dua changes fate and her hemiparesis even. Obviously seven
Yeah,
sessions of therapy might do it too, but
yeah.
dua and dua will do a thing. So we are down for it. We so appreciate you, Sada. Thank you everybody for joining us for another episode of Momming
Thank
While
you,
Muslim.
guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you.
This episode of Momming While Muslim is brought to you by Guidance Residential. Join Guidance Residential on March 23rd for a free career webinar and find out about job opportunities with the company that might help you, your family, and your community. This episode is also sponsored by Muslim Kids TV, where you can find over 15,000 resources, including Islamic videos, games, and ebooks for your children. Use code MKTV2021 to get a 25% discount off of your annual subscription.